welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Deer Corner. I'm going to go a little bit back in time on this video, but I'll explain to you as I go. But we finally got some dry weather. We've been battling this septic tank, but we finally got it dug up. We got it in and ready for inspection between 8 and 10 tomorrow morning. So then we can cover it up. We're ready to move on. But all last week, we only had one day of sunshine. It rained. So we took a little trip, went up, seen family in central Illinois and visited. And I got out and walking around looking through the old barns and what have not, and came across quite a few things. I brought one home with me. And that's one thing I don't generally do, is bring stuff home. I got enough stuff here cluttered that I don't need to bring anything else home. But this has a little story to it, and it has a little sentimental value to me growing up. And in 1973, I was 14 years old. And that's when I harvested my first deer. And I use the word harvest today. I didn't hunt him down. Dad, the evening before, told me to go ahead and that next morning early and go to the south pasture to the northwest corner and sit beside a old hickory tree, big hickory tree. And he said that buck had jumped the fence. He'd been jumping the fence and cutting the corner of the pasture, jump the other fence and get down into the bottom. And he said, that deer's going to run right in front of you. And I took my single shot 20 gauge, took 2 deer slugs with me. And I was sitting down, and he also said, I remember, when you see him, move very, very slow, really slow. But that morning, it worked just like he said, exactly. I looked over to the left, that buck jumped the fence, and just started right in front of me walking. And I slowly brought my gun up. When he almost got right in front of me, I pulled the trigger and down he went. And that was my first deer. Now, I harvested him. I didn't hunt him. But that turned the light on. That's where the light came on. That just got me going on deer hunting. But I didn't know at the time how much there was involved in deer hunting. But it wasn't a couple weeks later, I was hunting in another spot that I chose. I didn't see a thing. And I heard a shot. But when I got back to the machine lot, Dad was there with a tractor and had a nice deer on it, a very nice deer. And I looked at him and said, well, where'd you get him? He said, off that hickory tree. And I said, the same hickory tree I shot mine off of? He said, yeah. And it kind of made me mad. Matter of fact, I was mad. I was mad. He took my deer. That's the way I thought at the time. But see, I didn't know. I was just learning. I didn't know. I didn't know that bucks would run together. I didn't know that a mature buck takes his time. He'll let that young buck do all the running, all the chasing. But when that doe gets ready to breed, that old buck's going to come in, move in, knock that young buck out of the way, and breed. He's not going to do all the chasing and running. He'll let that young buck. So that young buck's the one I shot. I left that old buck having to defend for himself. But Dad knew this. He knew this. After a while, I figured it out. He knew I took the young buck out of the way. That old buck was going to start moving more. Dad moved in. Dad always showed us up deer hunting, always. We'd kill a nice one, he'd go out and kill a bigger one. It was just the way it was. One time, he went out and took hay out to the cows, but he left the tractor running. And the deer are used to that tractor every morning. But he got out there, left the tractor running, got off, went and stood by a tree and shot a deer. That's just the way it was. We hunted for meat. But he took another nice deer with the tractor running. But this is blast from the past. I mean, this is how I learned. But I was still mad about him shooting that deer. And it was several months later, we were fixing a fence because the deer keep jumping the fence. Barbed wire's old and rotten. It would break. We'd have to go fix it. The cows get out. That was just a normal thing we did every week. And we were fixing the fence, and Dad looked over there and he said, that's a deer rub. And I thought, I didn't know what a deer rub was. That's the first I've heard of it. I thought he's coming up with something. I go, he goes, no, that's a deer rub. Deer's marking that. Deer did that. No, I really thought he was just, I didn't know what to think. Then he goes, why don't you go walking around out over here in this area and see if you find another one, just like this one. So I took off walking, and I was out there walking around, and I found one. I looked at it, and I come back, told Dad, oh yeah, I found another one over here. And Dad lined them up, and he said, well, go on beyond that one and keep walking and looking. But he also stated, don't exert yourself. If you got to walk down a steep hill, up a steep bank, make it easy for you and look. And Lord and behold, I found another one. And we got to talk, and he started explaining to me how deer work, and I never knew it. But he called it a deer rub line. But he called it a deer sidewalk all the time. I don't know why, but he called it a deer sidewalk. And deer would walk this every year. But things went on. In '74, I got ready, going to go hunting. By then, we were building 2x4 ladder stands, big, heavy ladder stands. Took my brother and I to get them up. I mean, they were heavy. And Grandpa was alive then, and Grandpa goes, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to go deer hunting in the morning. He says, where are you going? And I said, well, we put that ladder stand we built up on that hickory tree out there. Now, it was a red oak. It was a red oak tree. And I'm going to go hunt on that stand. And Grandpa looked at me and says, you're wasting your time. That's all he said. You're wasting your time. I wouldn't say anything else. And Dad would sit there at the kitchen table and just snicker about it and smile. Grandpa said, you're wasting your time. I didn't know no different. And damn, I wasted my time. That year I only got a doe. Every deer I seen was too far away. I only got a chance to shoot a doe. And 1975 is my third year learning, being a deer hunting and checking and walking the woods, being in the woods. Dad was showing me things, scrapes, rubs, what things to look for, and signs, and what it meant. And I started getting really interested in it. And Field and Stream just started coming out really heavy on deer hunting. And in 75, they had an article, and I believe, if I am mistaken, it was a February 1975 February Field and Stream of a DIY climbing deer stand. It showed how to make a stand that you could climb up a tree and sit in. And I got reading that and looking at that, and I said, man, that's what I need. Right away, that's what I need. I can get back in there and get in and do, instead of dragging them heavy 2x4 ladders around and wasting my time. And so I went ahead and made a couple of them. My brother made one, I made one. We made a couple extra ladders. And turned 16. 1975, my 16th. It was right after my birthday. I took this stand and put it up and used it, and I killed a very nice 8-point out of that stand. And Lord and behold, we were up in Illinois at that family's place, went out in the old shed and looked up, and there it is. This stand is 50 years old this year. It's hard to believe it was still there, hanging in a gunny sack. And that's something else back there. You had gunny sacks. Everything came in gunny sacks. It didn't matter what you got, dog food, gunny sack, seed corn. Everything you got came in a gunny sack. We had gunny sacks everywhere. Things in them, it's just everything hanging up in a gunny sack. But this stand was made in 1975. And this year it's 50 years old. And one thing missing out of it, and I wish it was with it, but I'll talk about it. But this was the first climbing deer stand. One of the first to come out in Field and Stream magazine. And my brother and I made them. This was your platform, and it would fit in a fork of a tree. After you got up in the fork of the tree, you put that down in the fork of the tree. You'd wrap the rope around one end of the fork and tie it down so the wind or whatever, boy, this wood's getting bad. I guess it just deteriorating, dry rot. But I killed my second nice deer off of this stand. But it sat in a fork of a tree. And the other part is getting up the tree. And like I say, everything came in gunny sacks. Now this was a bag of coffee seed that we got, and I remember growing up, Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad grinding coffee. This is what we got coffee in every year. A big old bag of coffee seed and grind our own coffee. But anyway, go back to the deer stand. And this is the first climbing deer stand right here. Field and Stream, 1975. And it's made out of hemp rope. I do know that. You can tell. But anyway, made out of hemp rope. I wouldn't trust it today. It's all frayed up. I wouldn't climb on it. But anyway. Design of this, whoever thought of it, knew what they were doing. The runs are adjustable. You can adjust them up and down how far apart you wanted them. And how this worked. How this works. Was you grab hold of it and you would throw it up into the fork of the tree and get this lodged into the fork of the tree. And then you climb up the ladder, and once you get to that fork, you stand in the fork of the tree. Then you would take this rope here, wrap it around the tree, and tie it off. And that way you had a ladder to go up and down. Then you put this in the fork of the tree. Now you could stand on it or use it like a saddle and sit down like you're sitting on a horse saddle. But you can go up and down the tree. And now, not all the trees had a fork to get into. So that's where you had to have a little skill. You got to, of course, I was 16 years old at the time, a little easier, but you'd wrap this around the tree, hold on to this, you tie it off, you get it up, flip it, the tree's in here, you pull yourself up, you cock your feet in an angle, and just like climbing a pole, men used to climb poles, you flip it up, pull yourself up, flip it up. Once you get to the height, then you tie it off around the tree. And then you had the ladder to go up. But then, once you got down your third run, you take this, tie it around the tree, and it would sit on the run, like that. And you would tie it to the ladder. Then when you got up the tree, you had a place to put your feet, and you could sit on here. So the first climbing tree stand, Field and Stream, right here. And like I say, this is 50 years old. And I was very excited that it was still there. Heck of a, I wouldn't trust it today. The wood's all rotted. Broke's bad, I know that. But it's nice to see this old stuff. Got something in my eye. I mean, brings back memories. A lot of old memories, a lot of deer hunting. But I was surprised that was still hanging up there. And the reason this is hanging up is 1976, I took another deer out of this stand in another area. And Grandpa, 76 was last year with Grandpa, but Grandpa didn't say a whole lot. Grandpa would either say, "You're wasting your time," or "That sounds like a good idea." That's how he said it. But Dad started explaining things. But yeah, this is an old stand here. 50 years old. I don't know too many people that have something like that. I was just lucky to have it. It was still there. Just goes to show you, old people never threw nothing away. Things are still there. But in 1979, I retired this stand. A guy named Paul Meeks, M-E-E-K-S, came up with the actual first deer hunting climbing stand. In a little store in town called Coast to Coast, I went and ordered one. I went out and bit the bullet and bought one. And that opened the gates from then on for my deer hunting. It was clumsy. This here packed just like in that sack. It packed together, went in. Was it safe? Honestly, no. It wasn't safe. I could have fell out of a tree easily. I mean, being 15, 16 years old, being able to go out and experience hunting, deer hunting like this by myself was, like I say, it's just hard to remember how things used to be. But I got one of Paul Meeks' stands, and that opened the door to a lot more hunting in a lot more areas. I learned a lot about deer hunting. But it's changed, it's different today. I guess I was one that started hunting by myself at the age of 14. Climbing trees by 15, shooting deer out of trees at 16. Like I say, the first deer on the left is my first deer, 1973. The second deer I killed when I was 16. I hunted that deer when I was 16 in 1975. The third deer I taken in 1976 off of this stand right here. Both and then 1979 I took Paul Meek's stand out and took a deer. That's the fourth deer. But things are different today. I know things change. Everybody wants the quick way of doing it. But I kind of learned how to deer hunt. I guess the old-fashioned way. And I climbed a lot of trees. To me, learning how to hunt is get your stool. Come on, son, get your stool. Let's go sit in a blind over here at this food plot, and we'll shoot a deer that comes out in the food plot. I wouldn't be hunting today if I was showed that years ago. I would be done bored to death. But I learned a lot throughout the years how to deer hunt, how to chase deer. But I just thought I'd bring this along. Like I said, blast from the past, 50-year-old stand. Now I got some more clutter to hang up and put here in the cabin. Now my boys could talk about it. My grandkids could talk about it, what it is, and how to use it. Because I'm gonna get a new rope for it, replace the wood, and I'm gonna get my grandkids to learn how to use it. They may enjoy it. They may use it. I did. I took deer out of that thing. But thanks for coming along. Leave me a comment. I will get back with you. Go ahead, subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button. Help the channel out. We're just about done here at this place here. Plumbing, I hope, passes the inspection. Cover it up. Get the bathroom done. And we'll be open for business here. And I'll bring you along on all that. So, if you're out in the woods, be safe. Be safe than sorry. Things can happen. And I'm one of the lucky ones that didn't fall out of a tree growing up hunting. A lot of people do today, especially with some of these new hunting gadgets. I found out 9 people died, were killed last year by saddle hunting. I don't know if that's safe or not, but I'm too old to try something like that. But thanks for coming along. We'll see you again. And you have a nice evening.